Reddit. I don't want to sleep tonight. What is the scariest thing that has ever happened to you? Viewer discretion is advised. Please do like, share, and subscribe. Not me, but my wife. She was home alone as a teenager, except for her 5-year-old brother. They lived on the side of a hill in the middle of nowhere. She saw a strange man walk past her window. She hid with her little brother while he tried different doors and windows to see if any were unlocked. He kept looking in through different windows, so she kept having to take her brother into different parts of the house to stay unseen. Fortunately, her neighbor from down the road noticed the guy's truck near the house and yelled up to drive at him, and he took off. Another time, a couple of years later, she was home alone again. It was Halloween, and she was supposed to give out candy, except you'd have to be crazy to let your kids trick-or-treat on the winding back roads they lived on. She was in her living room when she suddenly got the very strong sense that someone was watching her from the steps leading downstairs. She was terrified, but thought she was just creeping herself out, until she saw all of their dogs were standing towards the same spot and cowering. She called them, and they stayed behind her in the corner for a couple of hours till the feeling suddenly passed. Later, her little brother talked to her about this imaginary friend who lived in the closet under those stairs. He said he was mean to him sometimes, and he didn't want to be near his closet after dark. She told me all this for the first time while I was house sitting with her for her mom. Super creepy, but I didn't see anything weird. I was 13 and had asthma at the same time as a really intense chest and head cold. I was waiting for the bus, and just as it was pulling up, I sneezed, and then my lungs stopped working and my throat closed up. No matter how hard I tried, my lungs would not suck in air. I looked with panic at the bus driver and the other passengers, but they didn't move or say anything. I made gestures to convey that I was in distress, but no one did anything. I started to punch myself in the chest and stomach to force myself to breathe. I hammered so hard as I started to see stars, and finally I was able to suck in a full breath of air. I was so dizzy by this point, I managed to climb onto the bus, and I just lay in silence in the seat, thinking about how I almost died, and no one did anything. I told my mom when I got home, and she immediately took me to see a doctor who got me on anti-inflammatory and antibiotics. Not scary, but totally baffling. I worked at the public library. I scanned a guy's library card, then went to hand it back to him. He saw me start to hand it to him. Our hands were about a foot apart. Then suddenly the card was gone. It never made it into his hand. We were both totally confused. I looked under the computer, desk, and weird cracks, but never found it. I still think about it. I was sitting at a campfire with my cousins, and it's pretty dark out. As we're sitting there, my cousin points off into the darkness and says, "What's that?" I look over and see what looks like some sort of animal that almost looks human, except it's on all fours, and the knees on its back legs are reversed, so they bend the other way. It really freaked me out, but before anyone could get a flashlight on it, it crawled away. This was by far the weirdest, creepiest, strangest thing I've ever seen. The other night, I woke up and couldn't move. I realized I was having an episode of sleep paralysis. Then I noticed the man standing in the doorway to my bedroom. I blinked, and then he was standing next to my bed. He was smiling with a closed mouth at me and holding a tiny basket. Inside, I was screaming at the top of my lungs and trying to move any part of my body or wake my boyfriend up. He started leaning down toward my face and then standing back up again, coming almost nose to nose with me. Then he started placing the basket on my stomach, then removing it. It seemed like it went on forever, but I was finally able to scream and sit up in bed. It took me 2 hours to fall back asleep, and I haven't slept very well since. I know I was hallucinating during an episode of sleep paralysis, but it's still unnerving. Side effects of taking the antidepressant Brintellix. I am usually laid back and calm, but was a complete different person on this medicine. I had insane urges to hurt myself and destroy anything. I feel like I was going insane. If my sister wasn't around when I first started having those feelings, then there's a good chance I probably would have attempted a violent suicide. Probably developing my schizoaffective disorder, hearing voices talk to you when no one else is around, telling you every negative thing about yourself you ever thought of, telling you people are out to get you and that you should be punished, believing those you love have been replaced by demons, watching your loved ones' faces morph into some kind of gory nightmare, sitting on your bed watching TV and turning to look out the window to see a black shadow staring back, the paranoia that the car following you is a danger, that your food is poisoned, that you're a bad person but everyone just puts up with you. This disorder is just something you learn to live with step by step and pill by pill until you find the right mix to feel like a person. Well, I've been pushing myself way too much for a few months, and I finally snapped and had my first panic anxiety attack. My dog picked up on this before I even knew what was going on, but I slowly felt that my arms and legs were getting weak and hard to move, and it felt like I had drank a bottle of vodka in one sitting. My dog would not leave my side. I managed to call my sister, who took me to the ER, and I got some sedatives via injection. My dog was brought with me. The doctor didn't mind that he was in the room and sitting next to me. I had to tell my dog to lay down when he growled at the doctor for examining my arms and looking for a muscle in my thigh to give me the sedatives. The doctor luckily had humor and said that he was a good dog for looking out after me. They worked after a few minutes, and I finally calmed down. I couldn't walk though, so my sister helped me home, and my dog jumped in the end of the bed, guarding me. I woke up in the middle of the night to my dog making weeping noises, which is usually the noises he makes when you tell him he's a good boy or calling his name. He sat at the end of the bed, wagging his tail like crazy and weeping and howling excited as if someone was telling him how good he was, what a good boy he was, and so on. He was staring straight up at the ceiling at the corner of my room. Suddenly, he stopped looking at the spot in the corner and looked at me as if somebody told him that I was awake. He cuddled up to me in my bed and fell asleep shortly thereafter. I have no idea what it was, but I have an idea that it was my grandparents looking out for me. When I was going through drug withdrawal, I had some hardcore hallucinations from doing it cold turkey. The worst ones were of the devil. I'm not sure if I slept during that time, but if I did, I didn't do it with the lights off. I could see him in the corner if the lights were off. I also kept hearing him. He wasn't speaking in any coherent language, but I understood every word he said. I don't want to try to remember what he said. It's 2 a.m. and I don't want to have a flashback right now. Eventually I tried to kill myself to make him go away. Thankfully, my hands were shaking so badly that I couldn't make a proper noose. This August will be 7 years sober. I'm still not entirely sure he was a hallucination. Maybe he was here to finally claim me. January 26, 2015. I got rear-ended by a semi-truck on the freeway while driving a 1990 Miata. It was about 7 p.m. and rainy. There was heavy traffic ahead, so I started to slow down. I was going maybe 30 miles per hour and downshifting when the car jolted. I was trying to figure out what had happened. My first instinct was that maybe I stalled, when the car jolted again, and I saw the truck in my rearview mirror. I still remember the deadpan expression of the other driver. I started honking my horn, but he kept hitting me, so I started pressing both horn buttons, even though only one actually worked. Then I started screaming at him as I racked my brain for anything to do, but then stopped as I had to focus on my steering. Even though my foot was no longer on the gas, I was still moving forward, and the car started to fishtail. It was all I could do to keep my car out of the other lanes. Eventually, the truck realized what was going on and pulled over. Then I had to cross 3 lanes of traffic to also pull over and find out that my phone had 1% battery left, and the other driver didn't speak English. Thankfully, some wonderful soul called Highway Patrol for us. Age 19, visiting girlfriend in Arizona from Florida. She broke up with me and left. A couple weeks later, asked me to come out to there for her. Foolish, I know. Avid climber. While a couple weeks into being there, she breaks up with me again. While I'm there in her apartment with her friends, whom don't like me already, I get on the bike I bought from Walmart to bike around Tempe, and I found this sort of small mountain with this about 100-foot rock face. I was in a supreme F-it mood and high as shit, so I decided to climb it. Like I said, I'm an avid climber and an explorer, so this looked like fun. I'm about 75 feet into the air at this point. People at a nearby bus stop had actually noticed me climbing this shit. They were all grouped up watching me. Anyways, about 10 more feet up, a bobcat or some shit, some sort of big cat, climbs out of a crack in the rocks. I'm 80-ish feet in the air, nothing but jagged rocks and death below me, and here's this giant-ass cat. I honestly thought I had gotten close to its cubs or something, and it was coming to defend itself. I had a foot here, a foot way over there, and my hands spread far out, trying to climb this rock face, so there isn't a whole lot I could do had this cat decided to attack me. I'm no more than 2 feet from it. I said some sort of quick prayer and stared at the cat. It just looked at me and climbed down. I climbed to the top, thanked God, sat at the top of this mountain overlooking the city, and thought to myself, never have I ever felt so alive. A severe panic attack at the age of 15. I had a sleep paralysis episode that just scared the ever-living shit out of me. Along with other awful events going on in my life, it became too much for me to handle. When I woke up, I was screaming and crying like a baby, could barely control myself, nor could I stop. My parents and older brother came up to check on me and tried their hardest to calm me down. Just seeing the look of sadness in all their eyes is what I remember the best. I felt so out of it, just venting in the worst way imaginable. I was driven to the hospital and fell asleep in the arms of my older brother while he was comforting me. Ever since then, I cannot understand any circumstance sleep in a dark room. Recently, I got home from a late night at work and decided to walk my dog in the woods by my house. We get to a clearing, and I start throwing sticks for him by moonlight when he stops and stares into the trees, growling softly. He's usually pretty courageous, and I've seen him go charging at elk 3 times his size, but he looked legit scared. I hadn't planned on being gone long, so I left my flashlight at home and only had my phone, which was at 10% battery. We went back to playing with sticks, but then it happened again. Dog growls and I heard some twigs snap. There have been cougar or mountain lion sightings in the area. I'm starting to worry, so I decided, screw this, let's go. We took the long route around the snapping twigs when my phone died. Just then, I hear something large moving in the bushes right by me, my dog growling his terrified growl again. I pull my knife out and tell him to run, and we bolt down the barely visible path, large creature moving in the woods near us, gaining on us steadily. As the parking lot comes into view, I see my dog come into the light, and we hear the forest beast's terrifying roar. "Hey man, did you find our weed?" Just then a young man with a duffel bag and a Bob Marley hat emerged from another trailhead, heading for a small station wagon with dank smoke drifting out of all 4 windows. Turned out to be stoners visiting their forest drop point. Welcome to British Columbia. I deal with strong emotions, including fear, by detaching from them, so I know the more detached I feel in a situation, the more scared I actually am. I got into a car pedestrian accident. One moment I was jaywalking, and while I don't remember anything that happened in between that last memory and waking up in the hospital, I do have a sense of the elapsed time. I woke up in the hospital while I was being catheterized. My thought processes were so calm. Looks like I'm not going to have to take that test tomorrow. I can't move at all. This might be an issue. There was no bolt of fear or dread, just an analysis of the situation. The funny thing is that I woke up because the nurse was catheterizing me, and I wasn't even momentarily disoriented or concerned by the fact that someone's hand was in my twat. It was just, oh, I'm in the hospital and being catheterized, which is probably going to be better than trying to make it to the bathroom with the injuries I must have if they have me strapped to a backboard. I got off with a bruised tailbone, a few scrapes, and a gnarly scar on my scalp.